The story opens in a home where love should have lived, but never did. An adopted boy moves through his days quietly, almost invisible, treated less like a member of the family and more like an unwelcome reminder of a choice they regretted. Every chore is thrown his way, every mistake, whether his or not, is pinned on him, and every whisper behind closed doors reminds him that he's only tolerated, never embraced. Yet everything changes the moment a billionaire steps into their lives. Unexpected, powerful, and oddly invested in the boy no one else defended. His visit sparks envy, confusion, and a cruel joke from the family. A joke that flips their world on its head. Because in trying to embarrass him, they open a door none of them are prepared for. Before we continue, make sure you like and subscribe so you never miss stories like this, and drop the country you're watching from in the comments. Back to the boy. As he stands alone in the hallway that night, he overhears a single sentence, one whispered by the billionaire, that freezes him in place. A sentence that will change everything. Jason Miller had learned a long time ago that silence made life easier. At 17, he'd perfected the skill of moving through the Garrison household without drawing attention. Because attention here rarely meant anything good. He'd been adopted at 5, too young to understand why strangers were suddenly his family, old enough to remember that the goodbye hug from his orphanage caretaker felt warmer than anything he ever received after arriving at the Garrison's immaculate 2-story home. From the outside, the place looked like a picture fit for a glossy magazine. Inside, it felt like stepping onto a stage where every actor pretended the script was flawless, even though every scene was falling apart. Rick Garrison, Jason's stepfather, sat at the head of the dinner table each night with the stiff posture of a man who'd tasted success once and never recovered from losing it. He was stern, sharp-tongued, and always one minor inconvenience away from snapping. Every unpaid bill, every bounced check, every creditor calling his phone somehow became Jason's fault. Because blaming the boy was easier than admitting the truth. Rick had run the family finances straight into the ground. Lorraine Garrison, on the other hand, mastered a different kind of cruelty. She sparkled at social events, praised herself in every reflective surface, and treated life like a ladder she refused to climb unless she had someone to step on. Jason became that someone. She never raised her hand, but her words were sharper than any slap. "You should be grateful," she'd tell him with a dismissive flick of her manicured fingers. "Most kids like you don't get a home like this." A home like this. Jason always fought the urge to laugh. The marble counters might have shined, but the fridge was often close to empty. The designer bags Lorraine flaunted online were usually borrowed. The cars in their driveway had more miles than pride. Everything was a performance, and their favorite trick was making Jason feel like a stage prop. Then there was Amber. 19, adored by everyone at her college and fully aware of her power. She wielded her popularity like a crown and treated Jason like the court jester. "Don't touch my stuff," she'd warn, even when he wasn't within 10 feet of her belongings. "Don't breathe so loud," she'd complain, rolling her eyes with dramatic annoyance. "Don't pretend you're part of this family," she'd sneer the second their parents turned away. Jason wasn't just the outsider, he was the built-in blame sponge. Free labor. The one who washed the dishes, scrubbed the floors, mowed the lawn, carried the groceries, and endured every insult disguised as a joke. But there was one thing they couldn't take from him. The worn-out children's book he kept hidden beneath his mattress. The cover was faded, the corners bent, the pages soft from years of turning, but it held memories nothing in the Garrison home could replace. His birth parents might have vanished from his life. But this book, this single, simple reminder, kept them real in ways no adoption paper could. At night, when Rick and Lorraine were arguing about money, and Amber was complaining about how unfair her perfect life supposedly was, Jason would quietly open the book and trace the illustrations with the gentle touch of someone handling something sacred. "You wouldn't believe this place," he whispered to the book one evening. "Still here, still trying." Talking to it gave him something steady, something soft in a house full of harsh corners. The Garrisons' biggest secret, the one they would rather chew their tongues off than admit, was that they were drowning financially. Everywhere they went, they bragged about their prosperity. flashing smiles that strained their cheeks. Lorraine posted photos of borrowed jewelry. Rick pretended he had business meetings when really he was avoiding debt collectors. Amber exaggerated stories about her lavish upbringing to win admiration from her friends. Every lie they told stacked higher than their unpaid bills. And in the middle of all this chaos, Lorraine had developed an obsession, not with a TV star or fashion icon, but with billionaire Cole Davenport. Cole was everything Rick wasn't: disciplined, powerful, admired, and impossibly wealthy. His mentorship philanthropy program had gone viral online. Videos of him visiting community centers, supporting struggling teens, and offering life-changing opportunities racked up millions of views. Lorraine watched every clip like she was studying scripture. "Now that," she told Amber one afternoon, "is the kind of man who shapes lives." Jason, sweeping the floor nearby, pretended not to hear. But Lorraine noticed anyway. "Don't even think about it," she snapped. "People like him don't have time for strays." Jason kept sweeping, but Lorraine wasn't done. "If he ever stepped foot in this home, I'd—" "Mom, please," Amber groaned. "You talk about him like he's going to show up and adopt you." Lorraine pressed a hand dramatically to her chest. "He's changing young people's futures, Amber. He's choosing candidates for his next mentorship cycle right now." Jason froze. He'd heard about the program. Every teen from rough circumstances hoped for a chance, but applying required recommendations, school support, and a stable home environment, three things Jason definitely didn't have. Rick scoffed loudly from his recliner. "People like Davenport only pick kids who can make them look good, not whatever Jason is." Jason didn't flinch. He was used to comments like that, but something in the room shifted, an energy he couldn't name. Later that evening, as he took the trash bins to the curb, he glanced back at the house. Lights glowed in every room, but none of them felt warm. He wondered, just for a moment, what his life might have been if family had meant something kinder. What he didn't know was that every lie the Garrisons told, every insult they threw his way, every moment he spent wondering if he mattered at all, was leading toward the day billionaire Cole Davenport would walk through their front door. And the Garrisons would discover that the boy they mocked, dismissed, and overworked was about to become far more important than any of them ever imagined. Cole Davenport's announcement took over every screen in the city within hours. Clips of his polished speech spread online faster than anyone expected. He didn't just talk about his success or his empire. He talked about second chances. He talked about young people who had the grit to rise even when everything in their lives pulled them down. He spoke with a calm authority that made even adults feel like he was giving them direction. His latest project was bold: a private humanitarian mentorship search. He wanted one deserving youth, just one, to guide personally. The chosen candidate would receive a full-year mentorship, career support, and a $250,000 household grant to stabilize their living conditions. Families across the city started sending in their nominations before the video even finished. Schools posted it. Youth centers pinned it to their walls. Parents whispered about it at grocery stores. For many, it felt like the closest thing to a miracle they'd ever seen advertised. Lorraine Garrison watched the announcement with the same look she usually reserved for luxury handbags. Her eyes glittered, her breathing quickened, and she clutched her phone like it was a golden ticket. $250,000, she murmured, to the household. "Do you understand what that could do for us?" Rick perked up instantly. "That could clear everything. The cards, the loans, all of it." Amber's jaw tightened. "I should apply. I'm like the perfect candidate." Rick snorted. "You? What have you accomplished besides taking pictures of yourself and complaining?" Amber gasped. "Dad," Lorraine waved her hand. "Sweetheart, you're beautiful, yes. Popular, yes. But Cole Davenport is choosing someone with depth." Amber folded her arms dramatically. "So what?" "I can make depth," Rick muttered. "You can't even spell it." Lorraine sighed as if the universe had personally offended her. "We don't have a single person in this house who qualifies." Then she paused, turned, looked toward the hallway where Jason stood wiping dust from the baseboards. A slow, mocking grin stretched across her face. "Well, we could always offer Jason." She gave a fake gasp. "Maybe he can actually be useful for once." Amber burst into loud, exaggerated laughter. "Oh my gosh, yes, let's submit him." That would be hilarious. Rick leaned back in his chair, amused. Imagine his face when he finds out we sent his name in as a joke. Amber held up her phone. Wait, let me record this. This is comedy gold. Jason froze mid-wipe. He hadn't meant to eavesdrop. The house was small and their voices carried easily. The laughter felt like a familiar weight dropped on his shoulders, a reminder that in this home he existed for their convenience, their frustrations, their entertainment. Lorraine grabbed the laptop. Let's do this. If Cole's team actually reads this trash, they'll see exactly why Jason isn't a good fit. The three of them huddled around the screen. Words filled the nomination form. Demeaning jokes, exaggerated flaws, sarcastic comments disguised as facts. They wrote things no loving guardian would ever say. They called him unmotivated, dull, socially awkward, barely literate, and a charity case who needs constant supervision. Amber added a line about him struggling to hold conversations without sounding confused. They laughed as they wrote it. Not one of them noticed Jason slip quietly to his room. He sat on the edge of his bed, the old children's book in his hands. He didn't cry. He was far past the point of tears, long past expecting anything gentle from this house. Still, something inside him felt heavier than usual. He reached under the bed and pulled out a small backpack, a couple of shirts, a bottle of water, his book. He zipped it halfway, paused, then zipped it fully. I shouldn't expect anything, he whispered to the faded pages of the book. Nothing good ever comes from them. Meanwhile, across the city, Cole Davenport sat in a quiet office reviewing stacks of digital applications. Assistants offered to sort them, but he shook his head. He wanted to see every name himself. He believed in patterns. Sometimes the most overlooked kid was the one who needed the opportunity the most. Hours into reading, he clicked open a file labeled Jason Miller, Garrison Family Nomination. The first line made his brows lower. The second line made him lean closer. By the third, he wasn't reading for amusement. He was reading with a growing sense of concern. The language was cruel. Not teasing, but targeted. Not protective, but dismissive. Jason's guardians had submitted an application not to elevate him, but to humiliate him. Yet buried beneath the mockery, Cole spotted something unusual. The school reports attached, not by the Garrisons but automatically by the system, showed strong grades. Teachers' comments described Jason as consistent, respectful, and hardworking. Cole sat back slowly. Some kids struggled because they lacked support. Jason struggled because he had none. This one, Cole murmured, tapping the screen, has potential. He clicked the accept button. The next morning, the Garrisons received the email. Amber screamed. Rick dropped his coffee mug. Lorraine's jaw fell open before she snapped it shut and declared, I knew he had it in him. Of course he did. I always believed in that boy. Jason stood in the doorway, backpack still packed from the night before. Lorraine hurried to him, gripping his shoulders too tightly. You will behave. You will be polite. And you will not embarrass us in front of Cole Davenport. Understood? Jason blinked. You want me to meet him? Obviously, Amber barked. Do not ruin this for us. For us. Not for him. Jason simply nodded. He had no idea that the billionaire had already made up his mind, and nothing the Garrisons planned would change what Cole Davenport intended to do next. The Garrison household practically shoved Jason out the door on the morning of his visit. Lorraine smoothed his shirt so aggressively that he flinched. Amber took 15 photos for proof we helped him, and Rick kept muttering instructions Jason could barely follow. By the time the car dropped him off at the Davenport estate, Jason's hands were clammy and his throat dry. The gates alone looked like something from another reality. Tall, sleek, and guarded by staff who stood straighter than anyone Jason had ever met. When they opened, revealing a driveway long enough to host a marathon, Jason swallowed hard. Don't touch anything unless you're told to, Lorraine's voice echoed in his head. Too late for that now. At the top of the steps, Cole Davenport waited in a fitted suit that somehow looked casual on him. He smiled when he saw Jason, a genuine warm smile that instantly clashed with everything Jason expected. Jason Miller, Cole said, extending a hand. I'm glad you're here. Jason froze for a full second. Cole noticed but didn't rush him. When Jason finally shook his hand, his grip was light, almost apologetic. I'm sorry if I'm early, or late, or something. Cole's laugh was quiet but real. You're right on time. Jason stepped inside and nearly tripped over his own feet. The foyer was enormous, shiny floors, high ceilings, sculptures he was afraid to look directly at. Everything gleamed. Everything looked expensive enough to deserve its own security detail. And right at the threshold, Jason dropped his bag. It hit the ground with a soft thud, but the sound echoed in his head like an earthquake. He grabbed it quickly, cheeks burning, and muttered, "Sorry, didn't mean to startle the floor." Cole raised an eyebrow, amused. "The floor's tougher than it looks." Jason wanted to sink into it. He followed Cole down a long hallway lined with paintings. At one point, Jason leaned closer to examine a vase on a pedestal, a tall, glossy piece with gold lines swirling around its base. He whispered, barely audible, "Don't fall. Seriously, stay right there." Cole turned just in time to catch him talking to it. "You're negotiating with the decor already?" he asked. Jason jerked upright. "I swear I'm normal," Cole chuckled. "Normal is overrated." The humor eased something tight in Jason's chest. He clutched his bag to his side, mostly because the worn-out children's book was inside, and he didn't want it to bend. "Is that your favorite?" Cole asked, noticing the way Jason held the bag with careful fingers. Jason hesitated, then unzipped it. He pulled out the book, its faded cover, bent corners, and scuffed spine telling a long story. Cole's expression softened instantly. "I know that book," he said quietly. "I used to read it to my sister." Jason's head snapped up. "You did?" "Yes." Cole's tone grew gentler. "She loved it, and seeing it again, it brings back good memories." Jason didn't know what to say. No adult had ever looked at his book with anything other than confusion or annoyance. But Cole looked at it like it mattered. And because it mattered to Cole, it suddenly felt less childish in Jason's hands. "That's a special thing to hold on to," Cole added. "Don't lose it." Jason nodded, throat tight. Cole then guided him toward a large room where two other teens stood waiting. Chase Ryder lounged on a couch like he owned the place. He wore designer clothes head to toe and scrolled on his phone with the casual boredom of someone used to being admired. His father owned a chain of luxury fitness centers, and Chase carried that confidence like armor. Elena Mora, standing near the window, glanced up with a polite smile that didn't reach her eyes. She was the daughter of a prominent politician, always perfectly dressed, always perfectly poised. Every gesture seemed controlled for presentation. Cole stepped forward. "These are the other candidates. You'll all be part of a 7-day mentorship evaluation. Work hard, observe, ask questions. I'm looking for authenticity, not perfection." Jason nodded, though perfection was exactly what Chase and Elena seemed built for. Chase gave Jason a quick up-and-down glance, then smirked. "Did they run out of options or something?" Elena's smile tightened. "Be nice," she murmured, though the amusement in her eyes said she didn't mean it. Jason ignored them, or tried to. He moved to the side of the room, gripping his book like a lifeline, hoping he could blend into the background. Cole noticed. He noticed everything, but said nothing for now. As the billionaire outlined the week's schedule, Jason stood quietly, listening, absorbing every detail, even as the other two whispered comments under their breath. He knew he didn't belong here. But for the first time in his life, someone powerful thought he did. And that was enough to make him stay. The first morning of the mentorship evaluation began with a reminder from Cole. These tests aren't about talent. They're about who you are when no one is applauding. Chase smirked like applause was something he was born with. Elena straightened her blazer, already preparing the perfect smile for every camera. Jason simply held his notebook, his hands just steady enough, ready to learn whatever he needed to know. Toss 1. Public Speaking Challenge. The candidates stood in a spacious hall with a small platform at the front. Cameras lined the back wall, ready to capture every tremble, every breath, every flicker of authenticity. Chase went first. He delivered a flawless speech about leadership and vision, sprinkled with rehearsed charm. The staff clapped politely. Elena followed with a smooth, polished statement about community advancement, sounding like she'd been trained for a podium since infancy. Then came Jason. He stepped onto the stage, heart pounding hard enough to shake the mic stand. As he began speaking, he felt something was off. When he opened his notebook, the first 3 pages were missing. Chase had accidentally spilled juice on them that morning and kindly offered to throw them out so Jason wouldn't embarrass himself. Now Jason stared at the empty space where his words should have been. He took a deep breath. I don't have the same background as the others. I don't have the fancy words or the long list of experiences, but I care about learning and helping and working hard. That's what I can offer. Silence filled the room. Not disappointment, not pity, just attention. Cole didn't clap, but his expression softened. Chase's smirk faded the slightest bit. Elena forced a smile, bothered that Jason managed to speak honestly without preparation. Jason walked off the platform feeling like he'd barely survived a storm, yet somehow stayed standing. 2. Problem-solving task. Next came a timed challenge requiring the teens to complete a complex scenario involving logistics for a community project. Elena rushed through hers with political precision. Chase ignored half the instructions and bragged as he filled out forms incorrectly. Jason looked at the papers and took a steady breath. Before he could begin, he reached into his folder and found nothing. His stack of instruction sheets had vanished. Chase raised a brow. Lose something? Jason didn't answer. He simply approached the staff member and said, I think mine went missing. If there's an extra copy, I'd appreciate it. No accusation, no whining, just calm. The staff member gave him a new set, and Jason worked, slow, steady, thoughtful. His solution wasn't flashy, but it was practical and genuinely helpful. Cole paused behind him at one point, observing the way Jason muttered under his breath, rewriting the sections that didn't feel right, determined to get them perfect. Not perfect for points, perfect for the people the project was meant to help. 3. Team-building exercise. All three were given a simple challenge. Build a structure using basic materials. Something sturdy, functional, collaborative. Elena and Chase immediately teamed up without being asked and tried to shut Jason out. They built something tall and stylish but unstable. Jason worked alone, quietly, patiently. He constructed a low, strong base, testing each piece with gentle pressure. When time ended, Chase and Elena's tower collapsed before the judges even approached. Jason's small structure remained steady. Chase muttered, "It's ugly." Cole replied, "It works." Chase fell silent. 4. Charity project proposal. This was the biggest test. They had to present an idea that could help a community in need. Jason worked late into the night on his proposal, sitting at the kitchen counter, flipping through his worn book for comfort. Chase and Elena whispered behind the wall, "Hide his folder. No, wait, give it back right before he goes on stage. Look like heroes." Before Jason's turn, Elena tapped his arm. "Found this. You must have dropped it." Jason nodded with tired gratitude. "Thanks," she smiled sweetly. "Of course." Then as he stepped toward the presentation room, he opened the folder and saw a stack of blank pages. No proposal, no outline, no time to fix it. He stood frozen. One of the cameras, perched in the corner, captured everything. The moment Jason realized what they'd done, the moment he chose not to fight back, the moment he walked onto the stage anyway. He faced the panel. "My idea is simple," he said. "Some kids feel invisible. They don't need big programs at first. They just need someone to notice they're there. I'd build a small center mentorship program. Somewhere safe. Somewhere real. Somewhere where kids like me don't feel like leftovers." It wasn't polished. It wasn't rehearsed. But it was honest. And Cole listened to every word. Comedy and embarrassment. Competitor style. Dinner that night felt like something straight out of a hidden camera show. Chase accidentally swapped Jason's utensils, giving him a tiny dessert fork for the main course. Jason did his best but eventually asked the plate, "Why won't you cooperate?" The staff tried and failed not to laugh. Later, Jason walked into the kitchen to get water and accidentally spoke to the smart fridge. Excuse me? Can you open?" The fridge beeped. "Please state command." Jason jumped back. "You talk?" A staff member chuckled. "It's voice-activated, sweetheart." Jason turned red. "I wasn't talking to it. I was checking if it needed maintenance." Cameras caught it all. Within hours, online viewers clipped every moment. Protect Jason at all costs. Someone cast him in a movie. This boy is carrying the show. Jason had no idea any of it existed. Jason's natural kindness. While the others posed for cameras and bragged online, Jason helped staff carry boxes without being asked. He cleaned plates after meals. He thanked every gardener, driver, and chef. One afternoon, he spotted a small bird lying on its side in the garden. He knelt, cupped it gently, and whispered, "Hang on, little guy." He brought it to the estate vet, and waited outside until he heard the bird would be fine. Cole saw all of it. He saw the missing papers, the shove-and-smile teamwork from Chase and Elena, the quiet pain in Jason's eyes whenever something went missing again. He also saw the kindness, the humility, the steady persistence. And by the end of the week, Cole wasn't questioning Jason anymore. He was questioning the other two. The estate had long gone quiet. Staff retired to their quarters, security lights dimmed to a warm amber glow, and the mansion's vast hallways finally breathed stillness. But Jason couldn't sleep. The day's challenges had sunk into his chest like stones. Chase mocking his thrift store blazer, Elena smirking when the smart fridge scolded him for unauthorized voice tone, the cameras capturing every awkward twitch he made. So, he slipped out to the balcony, one that overlooked the moonlit gardens, and sat on the cold marble floor with his back against the railing. In his hands was the one object that never made him feel small, his worn-out children's book. The cover was taped, the corners frayed, but it was the only thing that made him feel grounded. He whispered the lines under his breath, mouthing each word like a soft ritual, a reminder of the world he came from. Simple, messy, unpolished, but real. A gentle voice cut through the quiet. "Can't sleep either?" Jason's heart nearly jumped through his shirt. Cole Davenport stepped into the moonlight, dressed casually in soft gray sweats, a mug in hand. It was strange how someone with billions could appear so human, almost vulnerable. "Sorry," Jason stammered, scrambling to stand. "I didn't know this balcony was private." Cole raised a hand. "Relax, it's yours as much as it is mine this week." Jason sat back down slowly. Cole settled beside him, leaving enough space not to intimidate him but close enough to feel intentional. For a moment, neither spoke. The night carried its own hush, crickets, distant rustling, and the soft hum of security drones in sleep mode. Cole nodded toward the book. "You really love that one." Jason swallowed. "Yeah, it's kind of all I have left from my childhood." He hesitated. "It's not fancy. I know everyone here has better things." Cole smiled faintly. "I used to read that book to my younger sister." His voice softened, almost trembling. "She passed away a long time ago." Jason's eyes widened. "I didn't know. I'm sorry." "Don't be." Cole sighed, looking into the distance. "But seeing you hold it like that, it brought something back. Something good. Something I haven't felt in years." Jason looked down at the creased cover, his fingers tracing the edges. "This book, it made me feel wanted, like the characters understood me more than people did." He gave a shaky laugh. "I know that sounds stupid." "It doesn't," Cole said, eyes fixed on him with surprising intensity. "Loneliness doesn't care how rich you are, or how poor." Jason blinked hard. This was the first time someone had said something that made him feel truly seen, not pitied, not judged, not treated like a charity case. Cole placed his mug down carefully. "Jason, earlier today, when Chase and Elena tried to make you look foolish." "I'm used to it," Jason cut in gently. "People like them always win. People like me always survive. That's how things usually go." Cole shook his head slowly, almost painfully. "You shouldn't have to survive anything here." The words hit Jason like a shock. No one had ever defended him. Not at home, not at school, not in the world he came from. Cole continued, voice firm but warm. "You're not like the others. You're thoughtful, kind. And you don't hide behind money or reputation. Do you know how rare that is?" Jason didn't know what to say. His throat tightened with a mix of disbelief and gratitude. Cole added quietly, "When I started this mentorship program, I wanted someone with potential. I didn't expect to meet someone who reminded me of what I used to wish for in a little brother." Jason's breath hitched. He looked away quickly, pretending to study the garden lights so Cole wouldn't notice the shine in his eyes. In that silent, fragile moment, something shifted. An unspoken bond forming like a thread pulled tight between them. Cole wasn't just evaluating him anymore, and Jason wasn't just competing. For the first time in his life, Jason wasn't invisible. He was wanted. And Cole Davenport, billionaire titan, was beginning to see him not as a mentee, but as the son he never got to have. The sun had barely risen when chaos began to crackle through the Davenport estate. Jason sensed the tension before he saw it. Raised voices echoing down the marble hallway, security murmuring into radios, and the distant slam of the main doors. Then he heard their voices. The Garrisons. He froze. Mr. and Mrs. Garrison marched into the foyer like they owned the place. wearing the same smug expression they always wore when reminding Jason he was lucky to be under their roof. Their clothes were pressed, their smiles sharp, their energy entitled. They didn't even notice Jason on the staircase landing. Or worse, they didn't care. Cole Davenport emerged from his study, face unreadable but posture stiff with irritation. "You weren't scheduled for a visit. What do you want?" Mrs. Garrison launched right in. "Mr. Davenport, we assumed the grant funds would be processed by now. The boy is too emotional to speak for himself, so we came on his behalf." Jason's stomach twisted. "Grant? Emotional? Speak for himself?" Cole's eyes narrowed. "The evaluation isn't even close to finished." Mr. Garrison chuckled. "Right, but we figured it wouldn't matter. After all," he leaned in conspiratorially, "Jason wasn't exactly a serious submission, more like light entertainment." Jason felt the world tilt. Mrs. Garrison added with a laugh, "Our son thought it would be funny to send in Jason's application as a joke. You should have seen the video we took when he actually got selected." Cole's expression changed, slowly, dangerously. A billionaire's anger didn't explode. It went silent, icy, deadly. "This whole time," Cole said softly, "you've treated Jason like property, like a puppet for your amusement, and you dared drag him into my home under false pretenses?" Mr. Garrison scoffed. "Look, he should be grateful. A boy like him would never get close to this level of opportunity without people like us pushing him. You know how these charity cases are." "Enough." Cole snapped. The foyer vibrated with authority. "You two will leave, now." His voice was steel. Mrs. Garrison gave a shrill laugh. "Excuse me?" Cole stepped closer. "Get out of my house before I call security to escort you." The Garrison sputtered, panic replacing arrogance. "Fine," Mr. Garrison huffed, "but when the grant releases we expect—" "There will be no grant," Cole said coldly. "Not for you, not through you. Jason's future belongs to him, not to parasites who leech off his name." The Garrison stormed out, muttering angrily. But the damage was done, because Jason had heard every word, and the shame, hot, suffocating, unbearable, crushed him. He slipped away quietly, heart hammering. Cole defending him should have felt comforting. But Jason couldn't shake the humiliation. He was here because of a joke, a pity, a mistake. And now Cole knew. Later that day, the estate prepared for another round of evaluations, but Jason's energy was drained, hollow. His thoughts spiraled, dark and dizzying. That's when Chase Ryder and Elena Mora spotted him. Two sharks catching the scent of blood. Chase put on a fake concerned smile. "Rough morning, dude?" Jason tried to walk past, but Elena blocked him. "We just heard a rumor. Something about your family coming to shake down Mr. Davenport for money?" Jason kept his eyes down. "It's not like that." "Oh?" Chase smirked. "Because it kind of sounds like you're using him, and that's not cool." Jason stiffened. "I would never," but Chase didn't let him finish. "Oh, and by the way," he added casually, "if security stops you later, don't freak out. It's just protocol." Jason blinked. "What protocol?" Elena smiled sweetly. "You'll see." It happened an hour later. Two guards approached Jason outside the library, faces serious. "Jason Garrison?" "Yes. We need to check your room." Jason felt his blood run cold. "Why? What happened?" One guard exchanged a glance with the other. "A valuable timepiece belonging to Mr. Davenport is missing." Jason's breath caught. "What?" No, I didn't." They gently but firmly guided him inside. Inside his room, inside the closet, inside a drawer he never used. There it was, a gleaming diamond-encrusted watch. He stumbled backward, shaking. "I didn't put that there. I swear I didn't. Please, you have to believe me." Cole arrived in seconds, expression stormy with confusion and concern. "Jason," he said evenly, "tell me the truth. Did you take the watch?" Jason's vision blurred with panic. His hands trembled uncontrollably, his throat locked up. He saw Chase and Elena behind Cole, pretending shock, hiding smirks. He saw the Garrisons laughing at him in his mind. He saw everything collapsing. Jason whispered. "I don't know. Maybe I messed up. Maybe I don't belong here after all." His voice cracked. His chest caved in. His spirit broke. And before Cole could reach him, Jason ran, down the hall, through the foyer, out the front door. He didn't even grab his bag. Tears blurred the estate lights as he stumbled down the long driveway. Breath ragged, humiliation clawing at his throat. Behind him, Cole shouted his name. But Jason didn't turn back. Because in his heart, one truth screamed louder than anything else. He thought he had finally found a place where he mattered. But he was wrong. He had failed. At least, that's what he believed. Silence filled Cole Davenport's private office as he replayed the footage again, jaw tightening with each second. What began as a routine review had turned into a pit of disbelief and fury in his chest. There it was. Chase Ryder, glancing around before slipping the glittering watch into Jason's drawer. Elena standing guard, whispering instructions. Both of them grinning as they walked off. Cole leaned back in his chair, stunned. Not because of the sabotage. Wealthy, entitled teens scheming for advantage wasn't new to him, but because of what followed on the rest of the recordings. Hours of footage showing Jason in moments he had never noticed. Jason helping a gardener lift a heavy box without being asked. Jason kneeling in the dirt to comfort a frightened bird, whispering softly to calm it. Jason waiting patiently while the kitchen staff scrambled during dinner rush, thanking them for their work, something not even the adult guests ever did. Jason pausing outside a crying intern's door, gently passing her a glass of water and telling her, "Whatever it is, you'll get through it." Jason always in the background, always trying, always believing he was unwanted. Cole swallowed hard. He had been evaluating everyone for leadership, character, integrity, and all along, the most genuine soul in the entire program was the one who thought he didn't belong. Cole didn't waste another second. He grabbed his coat and rushed out of the estate, ignoring the confused calls of his staff. His car engine roared to life, its headlights slicing through the early evening haze. Jason had run. Jason believed he'd failed. Jason believed he was alone. But not anymore. Not on Cole's watch. He searched street after street, scanning sidewalks, checking every bus stop near the estate. His heart hammered with urgency. Then, at the far end of a dimly lit station, he finally saw him. Jason, small, folded into himself, clutching the worn-out children's book like it was the only piece of the world that hadn't betrayed him. Cole stepped out quietly, approaching as if nearing a wounded animal. Jason didn't look up, even when Cole sat beside him on the cold metal bench. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Cole said softly, "Jason, you weren't a joke." Jason's breath caught, but he didn't move. "You were the gift," Cole continued, voice thickening, "that I never knew I needed." Jason closed his eyes, shoulders trembling. You weren't supposed to see me like that." "See you how?" Cole asked gently. "Broken," Jason whispered. "Confused, always disappointing someone." Cole shook his head. "The only disappointment is how badly you were treated, and that ends tonight." Jason finally turned toward him, eyes red. "But the watch, the guards, I messed up everything." "You didn't mess up anything," Cole said firmly. "Chase planted the watch. I saw the footage." Jason blinked in shock. You believe me?" "I always did," Cole replied, "but now I know the full truth." The tension broke. Jason's hands trembled violently as he tried to wipe away tears. Cole didn't let him. He gently placed a steady hand on Jason's back. "You deserved better than the Garrisons," Cole said. "Better than being used, better than being mocked, better than living as if you were a mistake." Jason exhaled shakily. "Then what now? I don't want to go back there." "You won't," Cole said immediately. "I've already started the process to remove you from that household. Legally, permanently." Jason stared at him, breath frozen. "And," Cole added, voice dropping into something tender, "if you'll let me, I want to give you something no one ever offered you before." Jason's heart pounded. Cole turned fully toward him. "A real home, a real family, a father who chooses you." A pause. "Jason, I want to adopt you." The world seemed to fall away. Jason inhaled sharply, a sound between a cry and a gasp. His hands flew to his face as he doubled over, sobbing, not from pain but from a feeling he had never experienced so intensely. Being wanted. Cole pulled him into a steady, grounding embrace. "I'll protect you, teach you, guide you, and you'll never have to question your worth again." Jason clung to him like a lifeline, tears soaking Cole's coat. For the first time in his 17 years, he felt chosen. He felt safe. He felt loved. And as the last bus rumbled past them without stopping, Jason realized something. He wasn't going anywhere. He already knew where he belonged. Jason moved into the Davenport estate within the week. Not as a guest, not as a charity case, but as someone finally given the chance to exist without fear. His room, once a temporary space, became his own, filled slowly with things he chose, things he liked, things that reflected a boy who was finally learning he deserved comfort. Cole kept his promise in every way. Admissions officers were contacted. Applications were smoothed out. Opportunities opened like doors Jason never knew existed. Within months, Jason started college with full support, financial, emotional, and personal. And unlike the cold mornings back at the Garrison house, he left the estate knowing he had someone cheering for him, someone waiting for him to come home. As for Chase Ryder and Elena Mora, their smug confidence evaporated the moment the investigation report was finalized. Both were disqualified from the program. Their parents tried to fight it, but Cole's evidence was airtight, and the public had already made up its mind. Sabotage wasn't impressive, cruelty wasn't ambition, and entitlement wasn't talent. The Garrisons didn't escape accountability either. The state pressed charges for neglect, coercion, and fraudulent submissions. Their reputation crumbled. The luxury facade they clung to finally collapsed under the weight of their lies. Meanwhile, Jason thrived. He still kept the worn-out children's book on his bedside table, but now it symbolized something different. Not the painful reminder of a lonely past, but the quiet beginning of a life rebuilt. Cole often checked on him, offering guidance, laughter, and, most importantly, love. The kind that didn't demand anything in return. And as the story closes, one truth stands above everything. Sometimes the world throws you away, but the right person will see your worth instantly. Jason's journey shows us that life doesn't always deal fair hands, but resilience, kindness, and staying true to oneself can turn even the cruelest circumstances into blessings. From being laughed at, overlooked, and treated like a burden, to being chosen, valued, and finally protected, Jason's story reminds us that sometimes the world's most unexpected gifts come disguised in hardship. Now it's your turn to reflect. What would you have done in Jason's place? Could you have stayed patient, kind, and true to yourself under that pressure? Drop your answer in the comments, and while you're there, rate this story from 0 to 10. Your opinion matters. If you want to see more real-life billionaire transformation stories, like and subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. Every story is proof that fortune favors those who refuse to be defined by cruelty or circumstance.